Hey, if you've got a question, the voices of resin are here. Oh, PlastChicks.
Hey, PlastChicks is an SPE-sponsored podcast.
Hello and welcome.
Oh my gosh, this is so exciting.
It's so exciting.
I feel like every time we talk, we get more excited, but like, we might be at height excitement right now.
I mean, but like actually lower height because when do we talk in person that we're sitting down? Usually we're standing up.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
We get a little antsy.
Yeah,
It's probably the ADHD.
Yes. Well, we're broadcasting here live, which some of you may be listening to after the fact, but we're here live at NPE today.
Yeah, we're in Orlando. It is so hot, so sweaty, but that's okay. We're okay with that.
Yeah, the bridge is a situation. But
it makes the margaritas taste that much better.
It does. It certainly does.
We're so excited.
We're so excited.
We are actually, this is our first one here. We have several more to go.
True? Oh yeah, because we started the podcast 5 years ago on the first day of this NPE. Whew. And this is the first NPE in 6 years. So
look at us go.
Yeah.
So today we have a super cool guest that we had. Did we stalk you or did you stalk us? I never know when our stalking boundaries end.
That's actually how our friendship began. So this is looking good for you if you want to be friends with us.
If you want to be friends, it's a lot of text messages, and your GIF game better be on point.
Better be on point.
So
my GIF games are usually just Shaq.
We always start by threatening our guests. Yeah. So that's usually cut off in the beginning, but like nobody.
But this time, we're just going for it.
Go ahead and introduce.
All right. Well, today we have Bailey Robin. He is the co-founder and CEO of
Matium.
Because my brain wants to say it a different way. I know, that's my bad.
When she knows that something is certainly the way that you have to do it, she does the opposite.
My brain is actually very rebellious.
You're a rebel. It rhymes with Nebel.
It does, so it works out.
Yeah, rebel with an N.
Oh, we should also introduce ourselves.
Yes. I'm Mercedes Landazuri.
And I'm Lynzie Nebel.
And with our powers combined, we are PlastChicks, the voices of resin.
We're here. We're talking to Bailey, so let's get into it.
Welcome. Thank you for agreeing to join this shenanigans
and
that we
some
call
time away from your very busy booth, because your booth was hopping when we stopped by.
Yeah, it's been awesome. Thank you for having me.
So
it's great to be here.
Give us the details. Give us your background. Give us, casual question. What led you to become CEO?
So I started in 1995.
Do it. Go
5 years ago.
The minute you arrived on this planet, what happened?
So I went to school at Michigan for engineering.
Right. I heard you are a Spartan.
Yeah.
No.
Yes,
right?
I know. Yeah.
Great.
The national champion.
Your colleagues told us to mess with you about that. So that's a little gift from them.
All right. So started in engineering. I came out of school thinking like I had a construction background. And so like I was running a landscaping company back in college. I had moved around a lot in life. And my story's going to sound like it goes everywhere. That's because I think
we love that. That's ADHD
Well, but I already see a theme because you said you were running a company when you were in college.
Yeah, so I was running a landscaping company. I was like laying brick pavers and doing pre-construction grading for like the U.S. Fish and Wildlife and doing a lot of like interesting stuff. So I started that company with just myself and then hired a team of 14 people.
Wow.
Most of folks that were like in their 30s and 40s. And then
love it.
I was this 20-year-old kid that would work on, like I was our diesel mechanic, I was our website builder, I was our foreman.
It's always so humiliating having guests on. We're so excited and I'm like, wow, what was I doing when I was that age?
We need to invite trash guests.
Just
new motto, trash guests only. If you have accomplished anything, you're not for us.
All right, so we're just still at the beginning of your adult career story.
Question one.
But yeah, no. So I always loved like leading people and just working and like I'm a workaholic. So in college, went from software engineering to industrial and operations engineering. Was leaving college and then went to 3 different high schools, 2 in Michigan and 1 in Maryland. I had met some really great folks who like helped my life tremendously. One of those folks was Tom Bach and his family. And so when I when I graduated college, I called him, asked him for some advice, and he was like, you know what? I have this plastics resin trading company down in Maryland. And I was like, what is that?
I'm in.
And so he was like, we buy and sell plastic. You should try it out. And so at that time, I had got into some arguments with the folks with the guy who owned the landscape company. And I was like, you know what, this is probably just the time where I should reset my life. So I booked a one-way ticket to Central America, took 40 days and a backpack that was only about the size of this.
Props.
And just
I love light
walked
packing.
around Central America. And,
Amazing.
I've spent a weekend in Cleveland.
The mistake on the lake.
It's very
Just kidding.
similar.
I had the
we
best
love
trip
Cleveland.
to Cleveland.
I
Yeah.
I'll shout out my friend BK loves Cleveland more than anything.
Cleveland is great.
Cleveland and Akron.
You know,
Gotta love the rubber ducks.
But yeah, so reset my life, started plastic brokering. So I came into the office, I was given a laptop and a cell phone and the Plastics News article.
Hey,
I was told to
shout out.
Yeah. I was told to I was told to call businesses and ask them what they have and ask them what they need. And so I started doing it just like everybody else was. Just I started going on Google, I started cold calling, I started trying to figure it out. I hated cold calling.
I mean, is there someone that loves cold calling? And if you do love cold calling, should you be talking to someone that's licensed in a therapy sort of way?
Well,
I
don't know if you saw that my hand was raised. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. First of all, there's so many mean people that don't need to be mean. It's crazy. But anyways, yeah. And then I found like some things that worked for me. I have had a stutter for my entire life. So like when I sit there and fumbling over something that I have no idea about, I'm
Right.
like,
Oh,
it's
wow.
then I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, I need to figure out how to do this because you're always overselling yourself. Like especially in plastics, like people always say like,
what do you mean? Everybody's telling you exactly the truth, and nobody has ever oversold anything.
I don't know what you're talking
well, there's this term like knows enough to be dangerous.
Yes,
Like,
I've heard that a lot.
You hear that a lot. Yeah. And so that did not work for me. I had to know everything to be dangerous because I would fumble over anything. So
Wow.
I really just studied everything about it, and I always had that like science mentality. So I was always just like trying to understand. Like I'd talk to more material scientists. I'd talk to anybody who would talk to me, to be honest. But,
As long as they weren't mean.
yeah, no. But yeah, so then I started to I kind of approached the market from that way. I would just tell people what I learned, or I would ask people to learn more. And so I just really just went at it from not selling. I was just I just need to learn this market. So I just started talking to people all the time.
I love that so much.
It's very wise.
And
It's nice.
I think I've told some people, and people always like this, the way that I was finding people, I would go on Google Maps, and then I would go to the satellite image, and I would look for a railroad, and then I would sit there,
Oh,
and I would just
so
scroll down the railroads,
smart.
and wait until I found silos, and I would call those people.
That
And I
is
just did
so
that. I did that
clever.
every day.
That
And I
is
built-
very clever.
Yeah.
But if you're just being told to sell or call these people a traditional way, you're not
Wow.
Yeah.
you're not going to think outside
And, Google-
that box.
The worst
Wow.
thing about what SEO did for this industry is that it makes us think that everybody does everything, because everybody wants to rank higher. So
Right.
you look up who recycles plastic, and it's everybody. It's
Even if they just have the recycled paper in their
yeah,
office.
exactly, yeah. So it was Google was a hard thing to measure, and then a lot of you'd search for somebody, and then you find out that it's in a subdivision, and so it was really hard to find.
Right,
people
because
to
some
do
people
business
have
with.
these remote offices.
Yeah, it was
and-
really hard to know who you're doing business with, know what you're doing. In my world, I mean, I was still laying pavers on the side to pay rent. So I was still I needed to be successful because I'd moved my whole life down here. I didn't really have anything else.
Right.
Yeah,
Your backup plan was
nothing.
That's
well,
my
actually,
favorite backup.
it was laying pavers, which
Great.
props to those,
Plastics
props
is always
to those
better.
folks. That's
Plastics is better, and I'm going to say that regardless of what your backup plan is.
yes. So I had to figure it out. I built this Google spreadsheet that would turn red when I needed to call someone next. It would stay green as long as I'd called them when
we
the past
love some
week.
good conditional formatting.
Yeah.
Well, you.
Yeah. Actually, in case you haven't guessed, one of us is more creative. One of us is very creative with their spreadsheets.
Yes.
Best spreadsheets ever. Yours sound amazing, though.
Yeah, mine just I try to keep it simple because
Yeah, right.
and so our office was a group of 10 10 guys, and it turned into more, and it grew out as I was there. And again, like those guys taught me everything, and it was awesome to have them. So like I couldn't say better things about them. Mm-hmm. But then I got to the point where then it started to click, and then I like started to get it, started to pick up some information about like, again, my strategy was like, I'm just going to know exactly what the material buyers really need on their side, and I'm going to also understand it from like the market perspective rather than just the material science perspective, because I think that there's a lot of companies out there that get so trapped into like what their material science folks tell them that they need to do, and then as I've seen on the transactional like market, like you don't always need to do exactly within spec, and then sometimes like you really need to be in spec, and there needs to be a little bit of a balance between like what the market provides a company rather than what like the specifications need to be. And there's a lot of different ways to go around.
And like, not to jump too far into our conversation, because I'm just like sailing past 15 points we want to also talk to you about, but like that's a good point when it comes to like using PCR and like, the market, as everyone has always said, like, where do you get the PCR? What's the chicken? What's the egg? How are we like sharing that back and forth? So to like be able to analyze what the market actually needs versus like what it's being given is a really smart, intuitive way to go about it.
Yeah. And again, like at the end of the day, this is a globally competitive market. Like the U.S. buys products from everywhere. And so like at the end of the day, like our market needs to figure out how can we be the most globally competitive industry together, because as that happens, like our pie only gets bigger. And so that was one of the things that I was looking at, kind of that was one of the theses that was coming into my life as I started to think about founding Matium, was like, I'm seeing how the industry's working, and it's struggling. It's old school, like a lot of
it's old school.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I don't know how much sarcasm reads on a podcast, but
well, no, when you mentioned SEO, I was like, well,
we do love the old school principles, but we also need room for innovation.
Yeah. So like I was doing the job. I got it to click. In my third year, so COVID happened, and then I was like, okay, I'm going to focus solely on packaging.
That feels like a really great third year.
Yes.
And by really great, I would have sobbed every day.
Yeah. So you said you're going to focus on what?
So I focused on. I just thought about like what am I seeing move still? Mm-hmm. Like what's and like food packaging was just going up and up and up, like carry out containers, like. So I just pivoted my entire business. I was like, I am focusing on just this and only this, and I'm going to know this like the best. I'm just going to be the best at this. Mm-hmm. And so I started calling all the PET food packaging companies, and by the end of 2020, I went from like barely knowing how to do this job and like barely having any volume to I was doing like 10 million pounds a month trade. And then at that point, then
big jump.
It was a big jump, but then also it like changed my life. Both, I mean, it changed my life because of what it allowed me to do, but then also changed my life because it took away the time that allowed me to do anything else. And so like I was then doing basically admin work like 7 to 7, and then I just moved into a different house, and my neighbors were getting to know me, and my neighbors like, are you ever gonna not be in that window there? Because
you're like, stop looking at my window.
Yeah, like when are you gonna get out?
A great idea.
When are you gonna get out to like the largest like melon farm in the United States, for example? You missed that part when we were getting mic'd up. You visit the largest melon farm.
It's
very exciting.
Piece.
So you kind of alluded to what Matium does. Can you kind of break it down into? Tell the audience.
Yeah. So when I was sitting there, when I was founding Matium, I had to sit there and figure out like what was the biggest, or what was a big enough problem to solve, and what was I passionate enough about, and was I the right person enough to do something that was going to take me away from a career that I had just built, and I hadn't really had a whole lot of time in. Well, what was the thing that was going to take me away from that? And to me, it had to be something that was like unavoidable, and it was something that like humanity was going to have at some point in order to solve the problems that we have. And so what the idea was that sustainability. Well, so the plastics problem has been a thing that people care about across the world. becoming sustainable is this thing that I think is a buzzword that often isn't, like, people focus so much on the word that they forget about what it truly means. And like, to me, it means that we can build a future where, like, our children, our grandchildren, their grandchildren can have this life that we have today.
Right.
And so, like, if they can't, then it's not sustainable. And so what I was seeing was that, like, there was a lot of this media and a lot of this, there's just a lot of media that was, like, using it rather than, like, really diving into it.
I think, that's the problem. As soon as we get, like, a good, tangible word that we can, like, all kind of stand behind, the media is just like, well, this is sustainable. And although I shouldn't say that because we're actually technically media today. You know, I feel like it does get overused to a point where, you know, sometimes people that aren't involved get a little lost on what the actual meaning and the reason why we call it that.
Yeah. And so I went back to my industrial and operations, like, processing mind. Like, I studied lean manufacturing, and so to me it was like, okay, like, what can I do? Like, I can at least try to figure out how to make this process have less waste. Like, there's value add, there's non-value add in a process. Like, how can I just, like, I can at least help by trying to get waste out of the system. And so I was like, how can I do that? The biggest version, like, let's start at the first concept of supply and the final concept of demand. And let's figure out how to build a system that's in the middle where it can just be the most efficient platform for people to move material. And through that, then we'll collect, like, we'll build up a database, which then regulators and investors can use to then adjust markets so that they become more sustainable. And so that was the whole idea behind Matium. And so, like, the reason why it's called Matium is that we're building the material medium between supply and demand.
And which is why when I want to say Matium or anything else, it is not right.
But yeah, so that was the fine idea, and I pitched my cousin, who I had pitched probably 1,000 ideas to, like, over my lifetime, and this was the first one where he was like, "Yeah, let's do it."
So once he actually shook his head yes, you were like, "Okay, this has got some legs."
Yes. So then we first started to build, like, a material matchmaking system. So that was the first main thing, was, like, supply has specifications, demand has parameters. Let's run those against each other and then rank them based on material match, price match, and location match. And let's try to basically network optimize this whole crazy market that we all have all in our heads and our computers and notepads and everything. So that was the first thing. We tested it out. People liked it. I liked it. I thought it was cool. I started to use it. And then I started to, like, figure out, like, okay, well, this is starting to turn into something that I think is more of a business, less of a tool. Like, what else can we do? So we started talking to more customers, and then they wanted to just, nobody wants to use, like, two things. They want to use one thing. Like, one thing.
Well, two things. It's
two logins.
Too many.
It's too many.
It's too much, yeah.
That's why you use the same password for everything.
So
security hack.
Don't say that.
So strategically, I was thinking, okay, well, I know a bunch of buddies in the industry that run little recycling companies, and they're running. And I was like, "What do you run your platform off of?" And he was like, "Google Sheets." And then I was like, so I kept on asking. I'm like,
and the scary thing is, that's like, I bet that's probably a bigger answer than we all.
Oh, I kept going.
Google Sheets see a lot of action in this industry.
I kept going, and I kept
number one
on.
plastics industry supporter.
It was Excel. It was Google Sheets. It was all this, and I'm like, there's got to be something else out there. And so I just kept going, and it just kept on, like, shocking me. And then I was like, okay, we need to, like,
all of you are doing this very weirdly.
Yeah. I was like, so I already know that I'm focusing on helping traders. Like, my focus when I first started was like, okay, marketplaces don't work. I've seen that happen before. Like, nobody wants to have fully transparent pricing. The traders are, at the end of the day, the people that, like, have built all of the crazy things in this industry in their brains, and they hold on to that so that when, I don't want to name drop, so, like, I'll just say, like, when a packaging company changes buyers, like, that next buyer is usually trained by the trader or the distributor. They're like, you guys buy this is how it does. Like, every now and then we do this. Like, that's how that works. So you can't just kick out traders.
Again, another way to use the word sustainable, because that is not sustainable.
No, yeah, right. So I knew that I was building to help traders, and I knew that they would be like they'd give me like liquidity on the platforms that everyone would be happy. But then I realized like, oh, okay, there's a huge problem where we need to solve just the job experience of having a recycling company. Because the job experience, I kept on asking, it's like he spends all the time on paperwork. Like it just became this like,
Right.
Okay, it's 2021 at this point. Like there's ways that we can fix this.
We've done a pandemic. Like at this point, we need to move forward, people.
So at that point, then we decided, okay, I'm gonna make a really, really cheap, like no crazy implementation fee platform that does everything that you could possibly want it to, like create technical data sheets, manage materials, manage companies, book shipments automatically, make your paperwork, like just anything that I had ever done or that I had ever like talked to people about. By the way, this is not how you build software. You're not supposed to do this. We are not venture backed. No venture company would ever have let me do that. Like
Way too many things.
It was simply because my cousin is awesome and he let me like push this product for a long time, and he gave up a lot of money and stuff. But yeah, so like he let us build this thing for a while, and
selling it through his company, or distributing it through his.
No. I mean, we kept it under wraps for 3 years. I mean, him and I built that basically alone. Not 3 years. We built it alone for 2 years. Then we started to hire some folks. There's plenty of great stories.
There's a lot involved in that.
Well, yeah, and like there's plenty of great stories about how we've recruited our team. I think like the coolest thing, the product's cool, but I think the coolest thing that I've done so far is that I brought a bunch of like really smart, driven people like into PlastChicks, which I think is cool. Because they're like, this is the first time some of us have met each other, but also the first time for sure that a lot of people have seen the plastics industry. And they're all like mind blown. They're like, "This is." Well,
matter attracts like matters. I'm not surprised that you're
Right.
bringing in a lot of like driven people to the industry.
But yeah, it was all so that's been awesome. But yeah, so I mean, we did a pilot program. Once we had, like, I frame it as like we built this tool, and I frame it as like we built the iPod Touch to test it out first. So like we built this cool new thing that has all these apps and it does all this cool stuff, and it makes your life easier. We tested that out with a handful of companies last year, and we got good feedback. We got a handful of them to pay for the product, and then at that point, I knew, okay, this is our MVP worked. I learned a lot of stuff. I continue to learn a lot of stuff. This is my first time I've founded a software company. I'm definitely not an expert at it.
It's my first time with the software company. You remember your first time, right?
Well, yeah, no, I mean, I'm a CEO, but definitely not an expert at it.
Trust me, but I don't think anybody can be an expert at anything. But yeah, so we did that pilot program, and then got some proof, and then decided, okay, now it's time to raise money. It's time to, again, we stayed away from venture because I believe that there's some, this industry is so fragile, for lack of a better word.
How do you mean fragile?
Yeah, that's the wrong word. It is tight knit.
Yes.
It is tight. That is a better way to describe it. It is tight knit.
No, everybody thinks they're fragile.
No.
Yeah.
It's the wrong word.
Everyone in this building, they're all snowflakes.
All fragile.
Yeah.
No, yeah.
We're all besties. We are.
Yeah. It's like we all know each other. We all talk. We all yeah, fragile in a sense that you say something wrong, like fragile, and then all of a sudden,
it'll come back to you.
Yeah, yeah. So like
that's why I only insult Mercedes to her face. So she knows.
Yeah, always. Or if we're remote, then she'll text me.
Yeah, I will text insults as well.
I was just talking bad about you, and yeah. Appreciate
So
that. Yeah. Heard it here first.
So we wanted to fund the company in a way that would let us remain true to like the industry and build it for the. Like our whole thing is like built by the industry for the industry. Like we your network, your way. Like it's all like we're a digital infrastructure company. We don't take positions on the network. We don't take we just are simply trying to figure out how to make it a more sustainable and efficient industry by just easier than email, easier than phone call, like easier than writing paperwork, easier than just to provide tools. Don't step on people's feet. Like just do things that make sense. And so I knew that raising through venture wouldn't have let me do that. They would have forced me to make a marketplace. They would have forced me to do things. I mean, there's a lot of margin that we're leaving on the table all the time.
Right.
So raised money through some great small offices that were like, I hired a guy who was used to manage a lot of money at some of the top firms, and so he had an amazing network. He was one of my probably the most valuable hire that I've ever done.
Man,
and he
don't
brought
let
in
the other hires hear about that.
Well, he's
Oh,
great.
he knows?
He's great.
He has
Yeah,
a crown and everything.
he's great. But yeah, so raised money through just people who trusted us, and then took that iPod Touch, which was like the internal tool. So like internal CRM, ERP, TMS, like fits into your QuickBooks through an integration, so that like if you're a recycler, you're a small broker, you're a mid-level. I mean, really, if you use QuickBooks, then I would suggest that you just use Matium and QuickBooks, and that that's how you do your business. Now, if you're doing like some crazy compounding, if you're doing some hard stuff, we're not there yet. And I'd say like the main value prop that we have right now is that we simplify bulk transactions, and then we make it easier to buy and sell on markets.
I feel
like that's
if you're doing something tricky, then just give it like probably 2 or 3 years, and you will probably have something to solve that for you.
yeah. I mean,
That was a very confident. Yeah, I was making a joke, but that is like, yeah, of course.
Oh no, I mean,
Working for Master Batch or doing an ERP for Master Batch is not easy.
Well, I've started. I mean, I really, again, going back to the people thing, like I really like recruiting very, very smart people, and then trying like, and just saying yes. Like I like to go after like the really hard problems. I think that at the end of the day, when I look at how this industry becomes sustainable, I really think it's collaboration and automation. I think that a huge reason why you don't see most of the products that are like that we consume to be made in this country is because there's other countries that are willing to work for $1 a day,
right.
Whether that's their choice or not. Well, I mean, we don't have that structure here. So like, if we're not gonna ship 50% of our products from the country that we used to talk about digging through and down to, which means that it's on the opposite side of the world, then we probably need to figure out how to automate some stuff here. And so my long-term hope is that like we can catalyze some of that. I don't think that I don't plan on solving everything, but like I would love to work with great robotics companies or work with all the machine companies, like digitize a lot of this so that there's just a faster way to it. I
mean,
right now,
great
like,
news. A lot of those people are here right now.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
you came to the right place.
Yes, and these shows are awesome, but they only happen so often, right? And so like it's like these shows really make it real for people, right? Like it makes it so that you can come and see it and be like, oh my gosh, this is incredible, and you can talk and sit down and like the relationships are never going to go away. Like they're not like, to me, I'm trying to get people to spend less time alone on the computer trying to figure out how to do the things that they have to get done so they can go back to the relationship and build business. I think that like most people want to just solve problems and talk to people. And so that's what we're trying to do is just like automate a lot of the manual redundant tasks. And I guess the last thing I'll touch on is that, since we raised money, we launched the network. So the network is free to join. We had, since January 29th, we've had over 300 companies join. We've had probably around 50 join just in the past couple of days.
Wow.
And that is basically like LinkedIn for supply chain. It's just market the services that you provide, market the materials that you provide. And then it literally is like, you can link with your own network. So it's, the way that people are looking at using it is kind of like their own white label marketplace. So you can use our infrastructure. You can build out your network the way that you want to have it. So like if you want to deal with these 8 people, but not the 2 that are right around you, like you can not link with them. And then through that, then you can then offer and transact and use our material matchmaking system. You can use all the added benefits and like data tracking that really just make you more informed on how to make market decisions. Because that's what I found was that I was like an appraisal tool, but you had to call my number to get it. When I was a trader, like my small
the phone part out of it.
my small recycling buddies would be like, hey, what is this one? How much does it go for? And like, what am I supposed to do with it? And who buys it? And like, so that's what I'm trying to help really the whole market just better understand. There's been a lot of pushback about like, well, doesn't that take out brokers? To me, that there's three versions of third-party selling. There's brokering, there's distributing, and there's trading. I think that a lot of the market, really with the age of information and the internet, is kind of moving from brokerage to trading, and then distribution that's a big boy game.
Right.
I mean, you have to have money, and you have to have warehousing, and you have to have logistics. So that's never going to go away. But I do think that you're seeing it's just more competitive, really. I mean, brokerage is very much one-to-one, and it's somewhat relying on the lack of information, where trading is more a little bit skill, and it's value, and it's okay, I can help you here because I can take positions here,
right,
and then I can then work with you, and it is more relationship kind of management.
You'd mentioned that the network is free to join and free to use, or is there a subscription model? Or
so it's free to use and market your business. It's very much like a freemium product. So the network is the network where you can host your materials and services and company, and then like showcase where your locations are. There's like a lower level, so that one's free. If you want to then actually show like your legitimate like line card and like your line. So we're not only just doing line cards for materials, but we're doing line cards for the material that you offer, the material that you buy, and then also the services that you provide. So like a quick version of that is if you've got scrap in California, polypropylene scrap, so polypropylene tomato crates in California, and then there's somebody who has polypropylene 20 mil copolymer regrind need in Minnesota. Our material matchmaking system would match regrind to that regrind need, but what we'll do with our service items is that we'll actually we actually take like what that service can bring in, so it's basically like what that machine can do, and then what that machine can output, and then that goes in as like an equation in our material matchmaking system. So then that person who has crates can then get suggested all these services of people who pay us to be on that to have their line card there. So then all of a sudden now if you have, my goal there is I want to increase the utilization rates of all the machines in the country, because I think that like that's also waste.
Another way to be sustainable.
Yeah.
So I want to like suggest those for people, because we talked with a lot of like warehousing companies and grinders and stuff like that who are like, I love more business, but I don't know where to get it.
Right.
And again, this is it's just a lot of information. It's
and sometimes
work.
Those people, like to your point earlier, like sometimes those people are caught up in doing admin stuff, or they don't know where to turn, and they don't know how to like spend their day Googling, or they don't know the benefit of just texting someone
which we
ridiculous
do all the
questions
time.
to see where they can get.
And not to mention all of the people, right, that are retiring now in the industry, who have spent their whole career in the industry and are retiring or about to retire.
You're losing all those relationships, all that knowledge.
That's a lot that a lot of times hasn't been passed down.
That is a lot going on retirement very soon. Yeah. And that's scary.
Yeah.
But if you create those connections digitally, and like more so for the company and less so for the internal person in that position in that company, I feel like you could save a lot of hair pulling or texting people while they have freshly retired.
Yes.
Which feels like a very bad move. Don't text people when they freshly retire.
Yeah.
I'm on my boat right now. Reception is poor.
Get off my beach. I am here by myself.
I mean, people like to be of value, but people like to be of value when it's necessary, right? Like they don't always like to be of value when it's just a little bit redundant, or when it's I mean, that was kind of the simple thought that I had when I was founding Matium, was like, okay, I help 45 companies right now buy and sell material across the country, and I charge them more than what I'm now thinking about how to charge them. And so like my thought was, how can I just help as many people as possible and charge the least amount as possible? Like just
that's
flip the
not normally people's reaction.
You had mentioned like just blatantly, the margins that you're leaving on the table. What's the driver behind leaving the margin on the table?
Because it goes back to how tightly knit the industry is, and I think that like people always think that someone's going to go at it for themselves, and I mean, I really just want to solve this problem. I think that this problem is very solvable. Like I think that we always talk about sustainability, and people are always like, again, it just gets talked about, and it's not like a real solution. And so I want to solve it. And
so why do you want to solve it? What's the driver behind that?
That would be a whole podcast in itself.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah. I just want to do something that's worth it. I mean, I will say I grew up in Flint, Michigan. Like,
okay. There you go.
I didn't know what it was like to have money as a kid. I didn't know, moved around a lot. And so in my first 3 years of a real job, I made a lot of money. And then I got that, and it didn't really feel any different. So then I was like, that's not this game.
Right.
That's not the game that I feel like playing for the rest of my life. I like music. You said that you play guitar and sang. I make songs and stuff like that. I want to be an executive producer when I'm older. I want to do other stuff, but I want to solve something first. I think that I had to think about how do you do something that you can look back and say it's done. And so there's a certain level of solving this that I just want to look back and say this is done. I think it's going to take 15, 25 years. So it's not it's not a short-term game plan. This is a 25-year vision to get done. Mm-hmm. But I mean, it was start then, or just always think about it and then do it eventually, and then look back and be like, why did I wait? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So
that's beautiful. I'm excited because I see this shift that's happening, where some older generations, just a generation or two beyond us also ahead of us, right? Where there were much different drivers. And I see people, especially these next generation coming into the industry now.
Kids are all right.
And we wonder, is it just this bright-eyed optimism, or is it here to stay? And you've gone on and started this whole company.
And I think stuff like this proves that it doesn't have to be just this youthful optimism. It is actually doable, solvable, achievable. And I think, the more we start seeing those standards be set, the more we can come into it. And if someone comes into the industry saying I want to do this, they're going to be like, you can't take care of that.
Yeah.
It's all right, what you got?
And that's a really good point. Because the other big piece of it to me is to be sustainable, it has to be profitable. The solution is an economic one. And so we are 100% designing, Matium is built and designed to be the digital free market of bulk materials and services. It's that is I've refined our vision statement a little bit, because I occasionally get in the clouds, and then people are like, Bailey, talk to us
is that where Alex comes in?
Can we meet there? Because that's where we live.
Yeah, I answered somebody with an equation this morning, and they're like, what did you just do? I'm like, I'm sorry.
It's my favorite type of answer.
But yeah, so, I mean, it has to be an economic one. It has to make sense. People aren't going to just go, spend money and waste money. That is still waste. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's what we're after, is proving a solution rather than just pitching a solution and then hoping and then trying it out and then realizing, this plant has to. I'm not going to call anybody out, but I will say.
Second time you've said that.
So we do love pettiness. We will continue the pettiness after.
Names stay out.
Stay out.
I will not say any names, but I do not like when I see all of this movement towards this new plant that's going to revolutionize plastics recycling, and then they close down 2 years or 3 years later, and you got to think about the millions of tons of concrete and plastic and people's lives and all that stuff that was built for something that all you needed was data. If you just had data to begin that with, you could have. So to go back to the value prop of Matium, the first step in solving sustainability was it was a black box problem. Matium was not like my first idea. It was just, okay, let's solve sustainability and like let's just figure it out. And then going back to my engineering like process, like me and Alex, my co-founder, we sat on his bedroom floor with like one of those big like white pieces of paper.
I love that.
And we just, and I'd done process mapping. So I like mapped out the whole industry as I understood it. And I was like, this is how it works. This is where things go. I was like, we just need to find the data and then be able to like just measure it. Cause I was like, right now, I spent like weeks of research trying to figure out where does the problem lie?
Right.
And I was like, this is a black box problem. Like it makes total sense that we're just
And I mean, even
crap at a wall.
even going back to your point about like when a recycling facility closes and you lose all that time, like you're even losing like that. Usually it's in a community that didn't have those funds to start with, really, but kind of put a little bit of hope in on, being a space where a recycling facility could be. And now to have that taken away from them is, it can be detrimental sometimes. I mean, sometimes people recover, but like, it's a big deal to lose that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. But there's also this paradigm shift, right? That you're kind of alluding to with, the brick and mortar versus data. And actually yesterday, like, all of this could have been done. Like, okay, this closed, it wasn't working. All of this could have been done with data, which is what you're doing now, right? And so yesterday, there's a keynote from Sean Dubravik, who's a futurist. And he had like 5 key insights, and one of them was about the shift from digitization to datafication. And I was like thinking about that as you were explaining that. I was like, this is the future.
100%.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, it's the value of simulation. You can like rather than going and trying to spend all that energy and all that time, like let's test some things out first. And we don't like, luckily with computers, that's one of the best things about it is that you can save yourself a bunch of time by trying something out and seeing if it's going to work. I love all the recyclers that I know. Like those are my type of people because I come from like the blue collar side. So like I love just like going to like hunting and fishing and like just hanging out. Like I was at the farm yesterday with
right. So it was yesterday that he went to the biggest, the largest melon farm.
Yesterday was the largest.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or did it also have the world's largest melons, or it was just physically the largest
acreage
farm?
Acreage-wise, we're talking.
We did a deal with Ross Chastain for a sponsorship. He's a NASCAR driver and an eighth generation watermelon farmer.
What? Like you do.
Wow.
Yeah, very cool guy. So I took a recycler over there last night, and then we went over there and walked around the field and looked at. So I mean, ag plastics. I think they make like 1 billion pounds of scrap per year. So it's this massive problem. Most of it gets burnt. Most of it gets like buried. And then if it doesn't, then it costs the farmers a bunch of money to actually go get rid of it. So like trying to figure out how to kind of Uberify some of that need and see if we can like just match those up with all the recyclers across the country. Trying to make that simple, but
right.
I think I was going to say something I can't remember.
I mean, honestly, I think we have time for one more question because this has been like we have just been enraptured.
Yes, enraptured. Just enchanted.
Delighted.
Yes. So pleased.
And I have to ask this question because you mentioned it in the questions we had asked you, and I need to know. You mentioned there's this cool new sustainability calculator that you are working on. And listen, I love calculators. Specifically, we're talking TI 83 Plus, but I am willing to break up a bit for a sustainability calculator.
Awesome.
Let us know. What is it?
So that is, I think it's fairly simple. It's basically just an average. It uses averages. So, let me rephrase that. So, any brand, any supply chain, any company could use some pretty high level averages from their from their supply chain. So, like, it takes in your average distance from your PIR facilities, your average distance from your PCR facilities, your average distance from your producers. A few other things that I'll probably skip, but then, and then it then shows you what it looks like for if you change your blends. So if I was to change my blend from 100% virgin to 75% PIR and then 25% PCR, or like, so you can mismatch that as much as you want. and then it'll then show you what it looks like on a span of 10 years or 2 years or 2 months or whatever. And it'll actually show you like how much waste you'll generate, but then it'll also show you how much you'll either have to buy from the market or sell into the market for certain things. Wow. And so it's this really, and then, well, then also then we'll calculate your carbon emission change too. So like I wanted to build it because I was seeing like New Jersey did the 25% minimum content.
Right.
I think California's doing it. So actually like I went to Michigan. I connected with my old.
Did you say Ohio State?
No. But
they made us say this.
They did make us
say these things.
We got extra hats for it.
Yeah, we did.
But I connected with my old professor, and then so we actually had some University of Michigan engineering students help out with this whole project. So they went in and kind of tested it out for a few different supply chains, as well as like what it looks like on a state level. Like what's the impact to change from no carbon emission, no PCR minimum to going to 25 and going to 50. And so it's just this. It's a really simple but like nice way to just quickly get an insight on like.
And that's cool to see. And
simulation.
I can see exactly datification. And I can see a lot of people, like a lot of like companies, especially like maybe marketing people that maybe know just enough to be dangerous.
Yeah.
Want to use to kind of be like, hey guys, we started thinking about this, and maybe some people haven't started thinking about it until you're kind of shown what you can, what kind of improvements you can bring.
And again, like there's always that marketing need, right? Like you always want to do something, but you'll have to talk to a lot of people throughout the like value chain to understand what that real impact is going to be. Mm-hmm. So we're trying to just give this to somebody so that hopefully you can ask maybe 2 or 3 people and say, hey, what's our average distance? What are you trying to do? How much material do we move? And you just plug it in. And
I love that.
Get those features.
I love that so much. And it sounds really fun. And I would consider giving up my TI 83 Plus, yes. Which does date me.
Are you using it still these days?
Yes. Yeah. Well, Bailey, this was amazing.
Thank you for having me.
You are such a wonderful guest, and like your enthusiasm and energy, like we love it.
I love that you're taking. You didn't tell me that it was one of your recyclers that you actually took to the farm. What a great customer outing.
It was awesome.
It's a fun time.
They cooked for us. It was great. It was nice.
Oh,
we love a good cooking adventure, food adventure.
A cookout on a farm is just a different type of cookout.
That's an excellent type of cookout.
For those, I'm not sure if they're gonna be broadcasting these like live, but if they are, hopefully, where can people walking the show come and see you?
So we're in the South Hall, 121 93. If you parked on the south parking lot, just go to the back left corner. Or like go to the beer stand and then just grab a beer and then just like keep walking.
That's exactly how to get people.
That's how we found you. Yeah.
We were looking for beer. We found you.
And on the interwebs?
Yeah, so Matium.io. We are .io. It's
okay. We won't hold it against you.
But yeah, Matium.io. We're on LinkedIn. Please follow us there, and then like if you've ever, so again, it's free to sign up. You can join by. You'll have to request, so that is one thing. It is invite only, so we do verify that you are like a real company.
We love an invite only event.
Exclusive.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So you can request, or you can get invited by the other companies. So, so yeah, check it out. It's great. Thank you for having me. This is awesome.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And please tell your colleagues that we did give you trouble. OH?
Go Blue.
Nope.
Go Blue indeed.